do another language lesson, because so many of you write to me asking, Kylie, how did you become fluent in Italian, or how did you become comfortable in Italian? And it's true that sometimes you can feel like you're stagnating, like you keep learning the basics but you're not getting through to that next level of putting sentences together. And I find a great way to overcome this is to look at films and just go through and study the dialogue. So I've chosen a scene today from Fellini's 8½, and it is starring two classic actors, Marcello Mastroianni and Claudia Cardinale. And I think this will give me the opportunity after each line of dialogue to discuss a few grammar points, which will hopefully, I'll try and do a mix of both grammar for beginners and stuff for the more intermediate advanced student. So let's begin.
Tu saresti capace di piantare tutto e ricominciare la vita da capo?
Was your reaction, oh my gosh, that's too fast, I didn't understand anything? Yes, don't worry, it seems almost like it's sped up. Marcello speaks very fast and Claudia is easier to understand. I believe it's good to hear this speed so that you train your ear to pick up even just one word in a phrase like that, because that is what real life is like here in Italy. It's how I learned Italian, and I'm going to help you break it down so it's not so intimidating.
Tu saresti capace di piantare tutto e ricominciare la vita da capo. Tu saresti. Now this is, you would know to say, like you are. Okay, io sono, I am, you are, tu sei. Okay, io sono italiana, tu sei italiano. Okay, I am Italian, you are Italian. Now, if you go into the conditional, it's io sarei, I would be, and tu saresti, saresti. So in this case, he is saying, would you be? Tu saresti.
Tu saresti capace di piantare tutto e ricominciare la vita da capo?
Capace, which means capable. This is nice and easy to remember because it's so similar to English. Capace, capable, capable. And a lot of the time I find that in Italian this can be used where in English we would say, would you be able to? Would you be able to? Not would you be capable of, but would you be able to, or can you? Could you? Tu saresti capace di, would you be able to, piantare tutto e ricominciare la vita da capo. Ricominciare, I think that the word cominciare means to begin, to start, okay, cominciare. And I think of it as always try and find that little link in English which can give you that hook. This is how I learned Japanese, this is how I started with Spanish, and it's a great way to really just not have your mind be this cloud of words. You just need a hook to grapple your way into the into your memory. And this, the one that I would use for cominciare is commence. Okay, it's very similar to commence. To when does it to start? And then if you see in Italian ri in before a verb, it means to redo it, and which is easy to remember, like to redo. Ricominciare, to start again. Ricominciare.
Other examples of this could be, you say that you called your Airbnb host, but there was no answer, and someone says to you, prova a richiamare dopo le 4. Try to call again after 4. So the verb to call is chiamare, and to call again or to call back is richiamare, richiamare. Or you could say, I was booking the ticket for the train and the site didn't take a foreign card, so I had to redo the whole booking from the start. Stavo prenotando un biglietto del treno e il sito non accettava una carta straniera, quindi ho dovuto rifare tutta la prenotazione da capo. So the verb to do a booking is fare, and to redo the booking is rifare.
Ricominciare la vita da capo. Da, from, capo, from the capo. Capo can also mean the head. You know, the head is also the word used for capo. So from the, like, to start from the beginning.
Di scegliere una cosa sola e di essere fedele a quella. Di scegliere una cosa sola e di essere fedele a quella.
A lot of the time in Italian you will start the sentence with one verb and then you can add on multiple verbs after that. The next line he goes on to say di scegliere. So this is continuing from the last sentence. Now when you have di, you then can add on just the verb in the infinitive and di scegliere, to choose. So he's saying, he's still continuing on from would you be able to. Tu saresti capace di, and then first of all he says di piantare, di ricominciare, di scegliere, to choose. Di scegliere una cosa, to choose one thing, una cosa sola, and di essere, to be, fedele a quella. Fedele is to be loyal.
You see here the word fedele is loyal, but when I was studying, I would try to find the English word that at least begins with the same letter so that it's a little hook for your memory. So I would record fedele as faithful rather than loyal. And you'd be surprised how much this works to just help you when you're in the middle of the street trying to talk with a random Italian in the moment. You probably already do this, but I just thought I'd mention it anyway.
To be loyal to that thing, quella. So I don't know if you've studied this yet before, but you know how you have questo, which is something near to me, this near to me, and quello, that is far from me. So that over there. So this close to me, that over there. So in this case, he's saying, would you be able to choose something, a single thing, and to be faithful to it, to that thing? Di essere fedele a quella. So in this case, it's quella. Now, why is it quella? Because we say, first of all, una cosa, to choose a thing. Una cosa is feminine, so that, referring to that, quella becomes feminine.
Riuscire a farla diventare la ragione della tua vita. Riuscire a farla diventare la ragione della tua vita.
Riuscire a farla diventare la ragione della tua vita. Riuscire. I think I've spoken about this before. Riuscire is a very, very useful verb in Italian. It's used all the time. It means to manage to. Can you, are you? It's another time that Italians will say, instead of saying, can you do this, as in referring to are you literally capable of doing that? Can you manage it? They will say, riesci, can you do this? Riesci a, can you manage to, like, can you get that box down from the cupboard for me? Riesci a prendere quella scatola? Can you manage to get that box? And it's a very, very useful verb. And in this case, riuscire, it's still, because he's still continuing on from that initial, that first part stem of the paragraph, which is tu saresti capace. Would you be able to? And riuscire a farla diventare. Okay, riuscire, to be able to make, fare. Farla is to make it. And in this case, the it is la. It's a feminine because he's still referring to that one thing that you're faithful to. Diventare, to become. La ragione della tua vita. The reason of your life. The motivation for your whole life.
Di scegliere una cosa sola e di essere fedele a quella. Riuscire a farla diventare la ragione della tua vita. Una cosa che raccolga tutto, che diventi tutto, proprio perché è la tua fedeltà che la fa diventare infinita. Saresti capace.
Una cosa che raccolga tutto. Something that contains everything, che diventi tutto, that becomes everything.
We're going to touch on something called the subjunctive tense, or the congiuntivo in Italian. This is advanced grammar that sometimes even Italians get wrong, but you will encounter it every day if you travel or live in Italy. And I'll go into more later on, but essentially it's often used when speaking about feelings, opinions, hypothetical scenarios, phrases that are not facts, but intangible, uncertain possibilities. A very simple example would be if you look at the restaurant and there are no lights on, so you say, I think it's closed. But in Italian, because this is just not a fact, but just a feeling, and it's uncertain, you would need to say credo che sia chiuso. Credo che sia chiuso. Instead of saying credo che è chiuso, I believe it is closed. Credo che sia chiuso. So sia is still from the verb essere, which is where you get the e, but it's just something that you need to get used to in Italian, unfortunately. And once you start hearing people say it all the time, you end up finding it quite easy to remember. But in the beginning, oh my gosh, it's very confusing because you hear sia and you think, what does that mean? So in this scene, he's talking about that hypothetical thing that could make you change your entire life. And therefore, we need the subjunctive tense. So for raccogliere, it becomes raccolga, and diventare becomes diventi.
Una cosa che raccolga tutto, che diventi tutto, proprio perché la tua fedeltà che la fa diventare infinita. Saresti capace?
Now the translation on the screen is because your dedication to it makes it infinite. Proprio perché la tua fedeltà, your loyalty, because your loyalty che la fa diventare infinita, that makes it become infinite. Saresti capace, and he repeats it, would you be capable?
Ecco, ascolta, se io ti dicessi, Claudia. Ecco, ascolta, se io ti dicessi, Claudia.
Ecco, ascolta. Ecco, ascolta. So he's like, listen to me.
Ascolta is the imperative tense, which is when something is a command or an order, a desire for someone to do something. If you say eat, wait, stop, don't go there, it's difficult because it's not so similar in English. If I say to you, a friend in the informal, don't wait for me, eat. Non mi aspettare, mangia. But I often hear English speakers say something like, non mi aspetti, mangi, which is wrong and sounds to an Italian something like, you do not wait for me, you are eating. In this scene with ascoltare, it's the word listen. You listen, the tu, the informal, is ascolti. But this is used when saying something like, do you usually listen to music while you cook? Di solito ascolti la musica mentre cucini? Whereas in this scene, he's saying it as a command. Ascolta, listen. You also have to be careful with the formal and informal. If you want to say listen to someone formally, in the imperative, it is ascolti, which looks exactly like the tu informal if you say you listen, which is also ascolti. Putting the verb aspettare, to wait, into the imperative is quite useful when you're traveling in Italy. If you're speaking with a stranger in a restaurant, a hotel, a train station, and you want to be polite, you would use the formal. So this is aspetti. But if you were calling your child or your partner, which necessitates the informal, you would just say aspetta. You have to study this over and over to wrap your head around it. I remember I would hear aspetti and I would think that it was rude. I would think that it was informal, the tu. But if you're stating it as a command, then it must change. Let me show you two examples to help clarify things. So if someone asks you to pay and you want to say in polite, formal Italian, wait a moment, please, I'll get my card. This is a command. So you say, aspetti un attimo, per favore, prendo la carta. Aspetti un attimo, per favore, prendo la carta. But if it's not a command, but an observation, and you're in the formal, polite Italian, and you want to say to a waiter or hotel staff, you wait until after the high season to take your holiday. You wait, but you're not commanding them to do anything. You're just observing that they wait till all the tourists have gone away to take their holiday. And so this would be in Italian, lei aspetta fino a dopo l'alta stagione per fare una vacanza. Lei aspetta fino a dopo l'alta stagione per fare una vacanza.
Ecco, ascolta, se io ti dicessi, Claudia.
Se io ti dicessi.
This is the verb dire, to say, And he's using the subjunctive imperfect tense, dicessi, because it's not a fact, it's a hypothetical. He's saying, if I were to say to you, or if I said to you.
The present would be, se io ti dico, if I say to you. But he's saying, if I were to say to you, se io ti dicessi, Claudia. And she responds, very easy, e tu, and you, saresti capace, would you be able to? Would you be able to leave your life and start over again?
Ecco, ascolta, se io ti dicessi, Claudia.
E tu saresti capace? E tu saresti capace?
No, questo tipo no, non è capace.
No, questo tipo no. This guy, no. Non è capace. He is not capable.
No, questo tipo no, non è capace. Questo vuole prendere tutto, arraffare tutto, non sa rinunciare a niente.
Questo vuole prendere tutto. Questo, this guy, vuole, the third person wants, prendere, to take, tutto, to take everything. Arraffare tutto. Non sa rinunciare a niente. Okay, here you have the phrase, non sa rinunciare. Now, this is important because when you have the verb to know, which is sapere, and you put it beside another verb, it's like saying, can you? So, for example, if you were to, in English, we would say, oh, can you sing? Or can you swim? Do you know how to swim? Do you know how to sing? Do you know how to cook? And they would say, sai cantare. Do you know how to sing? And now notice the sing, that part of the verb doesn't have to change to you, canti, you don't say, because you've already got the know verb in referring to the person that you're speaking about. So sai, do you know, sai cantare, or sai guidare, do you know how to drive? So in this case, it's like, he says, non sa, hang on, my phone's locked. In this case, he's saying, non sa rinunciare. So in this case, he doesn't know, non sa, the third person, io so, tu sai, lui sa, non sa rinunciare. He doesn't know how to give up anything. Non sa rinunciare a niente.
So let's find an example you might use while on holiday in Italy. I don't know how to drive a manual car. Non so guidare una macchina con il cambio manuale. I don't know how to turn on the air conditioning. Non so accendere l'aria condizionata.
Cambia strada ogni giorno perché ha paura di perdere quella giusta. E sta morendo, come dissanguato.
E così finisce il film.
No, comincia così.
Cambia strada ogni giorno. He changes his path or his road every day. Cambia, he changes. Strada is road or path. Ogni giorno, every day. Perché ha paura? Because he has fear. So he's afraid. Ha paura. So when you say I'm scared or he's scared, you say that someone has fear. So ha, from avere, ha paura. Perché ha paura di perdere quella giusta, the right one. Now, quella in this case refers to the road. So in the first part of the phrase, you have la strada, cambia strada every day. So he changes the path every day. And then because he's afraid of missing the right one, missing the right road. And so quella refers to the right one, the right road. Giusta means right, or giusto or giusta. In this case, it's giusta, feminine, because it's beside quella. And quella is feminine because it's referring to la strada, the path, the road. E sta morendo, he's dying.
E così finisce il film.
No, comincia così.
And Claudia says, e così finisce il film. And does the film end like this? Così, like this. Finisce, ends il film. E così finisce il film. And he says, no, comincia così. Comincia. Remember, cominciare is like commence, so to start. No, it starts like this. Comincia così.
Poi incontra la ragazza della fonte. È una di quelle ragazze che danno l'acqua per guarire. È bellissima. Giovane e antica. Bambina e già donna. Autentica, solare. Non c'è dubbio che sia lei la sua salvezza.
È una di quelle ragazze, she's one of those girls, che danno l'acqua per guarire, who gives water to, for healing.
È bellissima. Giovane e antica.
È bellissima, she's beautiful, giovane e antica, young and ancient. Now, you wouldn't call someone, if you were to say they were old, you would say anziana, anziano, but in this case it's antica. I like it, I think, because it's like saying she's young and ancient, like an ancient beauty, you know, like something sacred.
Bambina e già donna, autentica, solare.
Bambina, a little girl, e già donna, and already, già means already, già donna, already a woman. Autentica, you can imagine what that means, authentic. Solare, like sunny, light.
Non c'è dubbio che sia lei la sua salvezza.
Non c'è dubbio, there is no doubt. Dubbio sounds, sort of looks like doubt, dubbio. And non c'è, there is not doubt. Non c'è dubbio che sia lei la sua salvezza. There is no doubt that she is his salvation. And this uses the subjunctive, the congiuntivo, which advanced students might have encountered before. Even as in this case, where it's saying there's no doubt that she is his salvation, that she is. And so we don't have an equivalent in English, so it can get hard to understand when you use it. But once you get familiar with hearing like dialogue or being in Italy, it becomes a lot easier to know when you have to use the subjunctive. Now, Claudia then says,
Della storia che mi hai raccontato non ho capito quasi niente. Ma scusa, un tipo così, come tu l'hai descritto, che non vuol bene a nessuno, non fa mica tanta pena, sai?
Della storia che mi hai raccontato non ho capito quasi niente. This is, for me, this for me exemplifies how in Italian sometimes the order can be switched around. So in English we would say, I didn't understand, I didn't get basically anything of what you told me of that story. So we would start with the I didn't understand, but she starts with della storia che mi hai raccontato, of the story that you told me. I didn't understand almost anything. So that's something just to get your head around, is how the order can be changed. And in fact, that's why she says the first part so fast, because della storia che mi hai raccontato non ho capito quasi niente. Of the story which you just told me. Now, in that is that you told me, raccontare. This is another very useful verb, or it's just very common, I find. Is it like you'll meet up with someone and they'll say, che mi racconti? Che mi racconti? Like what's up? What's new? Tell me what is your news? What news do you have to tell me? Now, in this case, you can remember raccontare because it sounds like recount. Like, so, you recount a story. That's at least how I remember it. Della storia che mi hai raccontato, of the story that you told me. Non ho capito, I didn't understand. Quasi, almost, niente, nothing.
Della storia che mi hai raccontato non ho capito quasi niente. Ma scusa, un tipo così, come tu l'hai descritto.
Ma scusa, un tipo così. Ma scusa, you'll hear this a lot. Ma scusa, but sorry. And this is when an Italian's about to start on a big diatribe and they say, ma scusa. Just wait a minute. un tipo così, a type, a guy like that, come tu l'hai descritto, as you described, come, as, tu, you, l'hai descritto. Now it would be lo hai descritto, but it's abbreviated, l'hai descritto, as you described.
Che non vuol bene a nessuno. Non fa mica tanta pena, sai.
Che non vuol bene a nessuno, that loves no one. Non fa mica tanto pena, sai. You don't feel sorry for him.
In fondo è colpa sua.
In fondo means after all, in the end. In fondo, because the fondo is like the bottom of the core of the issue. In fondo è colpa sua. It's his fault.
Che cosa pretende dagli altri?
Perché credi che io non lo sappia?
Che cosa pretende dagli altri? Now, pretendere is one of those false friends because it looks like pretend, but it's not at all. What it means is to what someone expects. Che cosa pretende dagli altri? What does he expect from others?
Perché credi che io non lo sappia?
Guido says, perché credi che io non lo sappia? Credi che io non lo sappia? Now, whenever you have the verb to believe, credere, you often have the subjunctive because belief is something that is not tangible, it's not concrete, and therefore it's one of those sort of hypothetical, wishy-washy kind of statements in Italian, and so therefore we need to change the tense, and this is why it is che io non lo sappia, that I don't know it.
Perché credi che io non lo sappia? Come sei noiosina, anche tu.
Come sei, how something you are, how beautiful you are, come sei bella. In this case, how boring you are. Anche tu, also you.
Ah, ma non ti si può dire proprio niente. Ah, ma non ti si può dire proprio niente.
Ah, ma non ti si può dire proprio niente. But you can't say practically anything to you, which means like you're so touchy, you can't take criticism.
Quanto sei buffo con quel cappellaccio truccato da vecchio.
Quanto sei buffo. How funny you are. Buffo is funny, but in a sense of like, it's even if someone says to you an anecdote and you say, che buffo, how funny.
Io non capisco. Incontro una ragazza che lo può far rinascere, che gli ridà vita, e lui la rifiuta.
Incontra una ragazza che lo può far rinascere. Incontra una ragazza, he meets a girl, che lo può far rinascere, who can make him be reborn, who gives him life again, and he refuses her. Lui la rifiuta. He refuses her.
Perché non ci crede più?
And he says, perché non ci crede più. Now when you add più at the end of something, it means you don't do it anymore. So for example, if I were to say, non ci vado, I don't go there. But if I were to say, non ci vado più, it means I don't go there anymore. So as to say, I used to go there, but I don't go there any longer.
Perché non ci crede più?
Non ci crede più. So because he no longer believes.
Perché non sa voler bene.
And then she says, perché non sa voler bene. Now, you may have heard before that there's amare, which is, you can say ti amo, I love you, but you can also say ti voglio bene, I want you well. And this is what you would say, for example, I would not say to my son, I would not say ti amo, because that's just a romantic love. You would say ti voglio bene, which means I love you, but it can also be said between two lovers as well, ti voglio bene, and it's what's used in this case in romantic sense.
Perché non sa voler bene.
Perché non sa voler bene. Now, you remember before when I was talking about the verb to know, sapere, and if you put that beside another verb, it means to know how to do something. So in this case, to know how to love, voler bene being to love. So he doesn't know how to love. Non sa voler bene.
Perché non è vero che una donna possa cambiare un uomo. Perché non è vero che una donna possa cambiare un uomo.
Perché non è vero che una donna possa cambiare un uomo. Because it's not true that a woman can change a man. Now, in this case we have perché non è vero. That's easy to understand because it's not true, non è vero, che, that, una donna, a woman. Then we have possa. Now where do we have possa? Possa cambiare, can change. And you might know può cambiare. So when you have potere, can, you have I can, io posso, you can, tu puoi, he can, lui può. But in this case, it's possa, and it's possa because, again, we have that uncertain subjunctive congiuntivo that comes after che, that. So, because he's saying it's not true that a woman can change a man, but that's not fact, actually. So it is a feeling, it's a hypothetical belief, even though he's stating it as though it were a fact. This is still a personal belief, so it's then requiring the subjunctive tense. So instead of it being può cambiare, it's possa cambiare.
Perché non sa voler bene.
And then Claudia repeats, perché non sa voler bene, because he doesn't know how to love. And Guido says,
E perché soprattutto non mi va di raccontare un'altra storia bugiarda.
E perché soprattutto non mi va di raccontare un'altra storia bugiarda. Soprattutto, above all. It's literally above all. Soprattutto. Non mi va. I think you might have heard of me speak about this before. If it's a casual way of saying like ti va, do you fancy? What do you think about going to the beach? Ti va di andare al mare? Ti va di prendere un caffè? Do you feel like grabbing a cup of coffee? And in this case, he says, non mi va, non mi va. I don't feel like, I can't be bothered. Non mi va di, I can't be bothered to raccontare. There's that verb again, to tell un'altra, another story, storia, bugiarda. Okay, so bugie are lies, bugiarda is liar, and this is in the case is the adjective, una storia bugiarda. A story of lies. And then she repeats, perché non sa voler bene.
Perché non sa voler bene.
And this is the scene. As I'm explaining these things, I'm thinking, it does sound very complicated. And when I first heard this, I was like, gosh, they do speak really fast. I can understand it all, but I don't worry if you feel like, oh my gosh, that is so fast, I have no idea what went on. Or if when I'm explaining it you say, I'm so confused. I've said this before, but keep letting all the grammar and the words just hang there in space around you. Maybe in 6 months from now you'll hear it again and it'll just sound familiar, and that will just be that little step forward that you can take with your language. I think they say with advertising that you need to see an ad 7 times in order for it to actually have an impact on you. Well, I believe it's similar with language. I mean, you can learn something the first time and you're like, that's totally confusing. The second time you say, you're just frustrated because you just say, look, someone's tried to explain this to me before, I don't get it. And then third time you're saying, oh, I forgot that completely, I can't believe how just completely inefficient this whole studying process is because I'm not retaining anything. But then after another few times you say, you know what, I think I understand it, or I think I've encountered it enough times that it's starting to make sense. And I can honestly assure you that this happens because obviously I don't have an Italian background and I didn't learn it as a child. It really did happen for me just by studying and being patient and letting all of the phrases that you hear in films, in music, or in fact when you're in Italy, just get absorbed into your head, and slowly it will start to make sense. So thank you for watching, and I hope this has been useful. Good luck.